Hi, I'm Alex Nottingham, founder of All Star Dental Academy. Today we have Rob Liano, and he's going to be talking about rockstar dentistry. If the world is a stage, Rob Liano, the rock star sales trainer, is front and center. Not only is he a rock musician who has toured the country, been on radio and TV, but he is also a sales professional. His work ethic, inherent talent, and drive to empower others has brought him accolades as a sales trainer. He pairs both old and new techniques to create an innovative and non-failing system of selling. His effectiveness is not a secret, and he wishes to share it with the world, whether on stage or a single phone call. Here is Rob Liano.
Yeah, well, I first started selling, and thanks for having me, by the way. I appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. I first started selling when I was 18 years old with my dad, selling vacuums, knocking on doors like the traditional old-school cold calling. And it taught me unbelievable methodology that I was able to carry forward with me throughout a long-term sales career. However, I kind of wanted to get into first why they actually call me the rock star. I was a long-haired drummer, wannabe rock star back in the 80s, wore spandex. I'm not shameful. I'm not too embarrassed to admit it, I guess. And when I got into really sales training, after a whole bout of going on tour, being like a real rock star, almost going bankrupt, the whole crazy turnaround success story, I got into insurance, and people were like, "You don't look like the typical insurance guy," which I guess was a good thing because they were traditionally older gentlemen, wearing a suit. And I never wear a suit, and I guess I'm not as old as they would perceive them to be. So when people put that connection together that I was a rock drummer and I had this image, they were calling me the rock star sales trainer. And it stuck. And here's the thing that's the most important part of it is I noticed in order for me to be a successful musician, I had to take lessons after having a desire to do so. I had to practice, and I had to put on a great performance in front of people in order to be successful. I noticed that's the same thing in sales, is I had to have a desire, had to learn my trade, had to practice to give a great presentation. So it became the same formula for me to be successful in both arenas. So it just made perfect sense that I could, adapt one to the other. And that's a great formula for success. Now, you might notice, if anyone has heard me before, I'm speaking a little differently. It's because I had some major dental work done less than a week ago, and I'm trying to get used to, I had some extractions with stitches and stuff. So I do have a dental journey, as I guess it may sound like at certain times when I speak, so I apologize. But I'm sure you can still understand me. So here's what happened. I had some horrific experiences with dentists where and dentists on the line will understand, where I had a perforated tooth from a post not going in straight, but going on an angle and just knocking through my tooth, which led to an extraction. I had a fractured root during a root canal and some other stuff. So I learned what it really was to have bad. Not if you're that dentist, it's not great. Not if you're me with what I went through. But it did lead me to seeing things as an overall picture of what I will call the easiest way to define sales. Because if sales scares you, the true definition of sales is service. So that shouldn't scare you, because service is what will make or break your practice or any business, if you're a salesperson or not. Everything comes down to service. So that's basically, in a nutshell, some of what happened to me. And what I've done through talking with Alex with this great All-Star Academy rockstar idea is we can literally put similar practices in place that will allow you to grow your dentistry, your practice, really almost any business. Obviously, some of this is going to be tailored towards a dental practice. But any sound techniques, strategies, a skill set is generally sound across the board for success. So the whole outline here is what I will call the pre-sale, and then there's a sale, and then there's also the post-sale. There are definitely different components in different stages, and they all matter. So, Alex, do you want me to get right into it, or do you have
No,
anything else you wanted to add
yeah,
there?
actually, I wanted to butt in there. First, for those that, if you go to allstardentalacademy.com and you click on Rob's profile, one of the things you can do is download, there's a link there, you can download the worksheet, and this will help you follow along with what Rob's going to cover today, and you can take some notes and see some of the questions that we're going to discuss. Also, we're going to have some live social media conversations. So go to facebook.com/allstardentalacademy, or you can go to Rob's page. We're also going to have a live Twitter party. So if you're on Twitter, go to ampersand or the @ symbol Dental All Stars, and you can also do at Rob Liano, Liano, and we'll be posting, some of our people will be posting some comments as Rob speaks. Feel free to ask some questions or comment as we go along. That always makes it a lot of fun. So I just wanted to, before Rob gets into his program, I wanted you to all know where you can find your resources and how you can interact with us.
Well, Twitter parties are my favorite because, you can show up in your underwear. So it's a beautiful thing. You don't have to be shy. You can say whatever you want. I'm going to kind of do my best to get into some of the key points of part one, which is the pre-sale. We have a few questions set up for the end that I thought might be helpful, too, that you could take away some tidbits, maybe one thing that can explode your practice that maybe you haven't thought of. Anything, just it might be a refresher, a reminder. Things like that are always good because, we only learn by repetition. Unfortunately, none of us have what's called total recall, where we can remember everything we've ever learned or taught. And, sometimes we settle into some bad habits over time, and, we need that little. So the first part for me is and then here's what's really important. I really go as far ahead as leave a post in the mail about your dental practice. This absolutely is part of the sales process. How does it represent you, the design? Are there pictures of you and your team smiling? Does it look welcoming? Does it have really, pertinent information that I would be engaged by? Because you always want to think engaged, or your clients will be thinking divorce. I say that all the time. Everything is about engaging the client to get them to either come to your office or call your office. And it's a similar process that I do with sales training. I design voicemail messages for someone to call back, because someone calling back is a potential sale. If they don't call back because you didn't engage them, it's tough to track them down time after time after time. So even going as far as that, like what are you doing to market your practice, and what is that saying about you in particular? I want to cover the point prayer is not enough, because I know it sounds probably like an interesting or bizarre title. I don't know if anyone is familiar with how churches operate, or actually how I should say how people are receptive to churches. Statistics say that most people decide whether they like a church or not, and will go back within the first few minutes of walking in the door based upon how they're greeted. Meaning, the pastor could be a rock star. The priest could light up the stage. There could be flames, whatever, a band, a choir. It won't even matter, because they've already made up their decision or made up their mind and their decision. So this part of the pre-sale for me, I would say, meaning the second component of part one, is how does your office represent what you want to project? Meaning the moment you walk in the door, what does it look like? Am I greeted by someone who had a bad day and is pissed off and doesn't smile at me when I walk in? Am I made to feel very comfortable? Because your employees are a reflection of you. Your decorating is a reflection of you. If you don't have great decorating skills, hire someone. But the whole thing is you want warmth and inviting, comfortable environment, because, listen, we all know, still, I am a dental pro. When I got my teeth extracted last week, this guy was like, "You're a great patient." I just sat there very relaxed, calm, and I wasn't unconscious. I just got, Novocaine and stitches and all that stuff. But I've been through it all before. But even though I have, at this age, anytime I hear a drill, my hair still stands up on end. I don't know if it's because we kind of learn that we're afraid of the dentist, whatever it is. You guys all can understand what I'm talking about. If anyone on the phone is a patient. Yep. Oh, someone's on. Welcome.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Anyways, while that happened, there could have been a carryover of somebody else's conference line, but we're having some very interesting paranormal activity on our phone call. We welcome it. But also, I maybe it was a sign that I forgot to introduce Tom. Tom White is our marketing guru. He's on the call, and he may be butting in if he has some suggestions or questions that he may want to ask Rob. So, hi, Tom.
Fine. I'll jump in when it's appropriate.
So he's here. So he's here. All right, Rob, as you were.
Yeah,
no further questions.
So now you have to remember, and I always tend to, in sales, look at the client side of things. So you have to remember what it feels like walking into a dentist. You might be in pain. So you want it to be the most comfortable entrance that somebody could make. Granted, you can't go to feeding them grapes and fanning them with, big leaves, but you want to do everything you can to make it a very welcome environment so that they will want to come back. Now, granted, a lot of people maybe don't notice this on the surface, but they may notice it at a subconscious level. Like it could be an irritating color. Now, you can't please everyone, but you do want to try and please as many people as possible. So, again, getting back to the person at reception, I actually have a funny story with this. I was with my girlfriend, and she was going to a doctor, and there were two ladies at the counter speaking, or I should say complaining, about non-work-related stuff. And we're sitting there, and as she's trying to wait to kind of check in, and we're sitting there listening to them, and I thought it was funny. They're like, well, you know what? We're only here to help people. In the meantime, they're like airing out this laundry about the practice and other stuff. And I was like, I kind of pictured in my head somebody there bleeding going, can you guys help me? Because they're saying, we're really here to help people, but then complaining about the practice. That is not a good situation. And here's something I noticed the other day. The dentist was running late, who did the extractions. So they put me in, the room in the chair. And all I can do is listen. So I was paying attention to see what I heard, and I didn't hear anything negative. It turned out to be a great practice, had a great, welcoming vibe, because I've never been there before. And I loved it because, again, everything represents you, the dentist. I don't care if there's one name on the door or four. Everything will represent your overall outlook and the environment you create. So you have to make sure that someone's not talking about how they were partying the night before, or how they were pissed off at their partner, or how they hate their job while they're at their job. And it might be tough to monitor that, but here's one of the really important things, which we're going to get to a little later on, is you need to ask questions. You need to have your clients become loyal customers, and you will find out more about how you can improve your practice. So, yeah, it's funny. It reminds me of one time I was training insurance agents, and I decided to fly them out to a hotel in Florida. And I go online, I look at the hotel, it looks awesome. I get there, it looks nothing like the pictures. So I know I've seen postcards where they take that stock photo background, and it looks like this great high-tech office or something, and you go there, and you're like, this isn't what I expected. And here's the bad part about that. All it takes is one thing. And your customer will go to the dentist up the block, and you'll never even know why. In sales, salespeople dismiss those clients as if they had no responsibility in it. But you can't do that. In fact, those are the clients you can learn the most from regarding how to improve your practice. You want people to complain, as long as it's founded in truth, of course, because that's how you can improve what you do. How can you get better if you don't know what you're doing wrong? Remaining complacent and on autopilot will absolutely not cut it in this day and age, because everyone has competition. So from anyone else is service and value. Statistically, that's what people shop for. It's not about price. everyone on this phone call has probably paid over the normal price for some time when they've gotten great service. You may have tipped a little extra. I go to my mechanic, who's almost an hour away, just for an oil change, because he's the best I've had in my entire life, and I will not let anyone else touch any of my cars for the last 8 years. Well, thanks. You know what's funny is you reminded me of one thing is when I was a few years ago, for some reason, health insurance had no sales training. 90% of the country had no sales training. They just kind of got licensed, got into it, and the failure rate was super high. And I actually became, if not the most sought-after sales trainer in the country for insurance, one of them. I would think it was the most sought-after. So I had so much work. I was so busy. I decided to raise my rates. And what happened was I got the equal amount of work, but a better clientele because people saw more value in the higher price. Well, he must be really good. It didn't work the opposite way where people were like, oh, forget that. It actually weeded out some of the clients who maybe didn't have enough to ever succeed in the business. So, and I didn't make less money. I made more money. It was really interesting of a kind of weird parallel where I was like, I'm going to charge more because I want to work less, but I didn't work less. and it backfired in a good way. And, you know, value is everything. Like, even when something goes on sale, you know, you say in your head, now that's worth it, meaning you see the value in it at that price. So it actually leads us to the second piece here, beating the competition. You know, as I said, everyone has competition. So what can you offer or do that adds value to set yourself apart? I mean, you should absolutely review other dental websites, see what they offer, what their prices are, if they have prices, what their office and staff look like. That's fair. You want to, you know, create an edge. I did this in insurance. What I did is I actually put my name out there to get called by insurance agencies for them to quote me so I could hear what they were doing. And I was like, this is the competition? Awesome. So it allowed me to launch my own insurance agency with the confidence I needed to succeed because I was like, these guys don't know what they're doing. And I'm not saying, you know, there are dentists that don't know what they're doing, but wait, I will say there are because one of the dentists I went to within the last 2 years ended up in jail for fraud and, you know, that did some shoddy work. So that is part of your competition. So that's the easy part. Beating someone who's terrible is very simple. Beating someone who's good is where the challenge comes in. And if you're not learning and growing, someone else is so that they could be better than you. So you want to start to position yourself, again, not to be complacent, but think about things that you can do that can set you apart.
Yeah, I think that, like you say, that the biggest threat to any professional, somebody who is at a high level at what they do, is when and a dentist you can put in that category, having a degree that takes a long time to develop and extra training, that, you know, the kiss of death, if you will, is I know enough. And I think, like you say, it's very important they continually get training, they continue to ask questions, they continue to be on a call like this with a rock star talking about dentistry, you know, finding another angle to view that they don't know. So humility comes a long way. So I think that's a great point you bring up.
Thanks. And you know what? You brought up another great story I can share. And first, I agree because it's funny. People don't ever relate sales to dentistry, to mechanics, you know, to a yoga studio. But life is sales, man, which is all service, communication, and value. So to build on those points. But I'll tell you a great story. The dentist that eventually went to jail wasn't allowed to practice anymore, I found out after the fact. So he brought in another dentist who was what I will call my savior, right, to work in his office, and he worked on me. And I'm sitting there while I'm getting numb, listening to a conversation. And they're discussing what they're going to do. Now, I don't remember this exactly, but one dentist was great, one not so great, and you'll see why. And this is really important. And it's part of beating the competition. The good guy is saying, this is what I think we should do. The bad guy's like, no, you know what, I always do it this way. And the good guy goes, yeah, but you know what, the last couple of conferences I went to where continuing education, no one's really doing that anymore. And the bad dentist says, yeah, I don't really follow that stuff. And I'm like, you could see my eyes widen because I can't really talk. But I'm like, oh my gosh. So I learned that in insurance, is we always have to do every 2 or 3 years continuing education. But that's where people leave it, is what they have to do to maintain their insurance license, to maintain their practice. It's not enough. You know, instead of reading the newspaper, which is mostly negative, you could be reading up on the latest trends. Like, I was actually shocked to walk into the last couple of dentist offices and see those new, which I will call new, wraparound x-ray machines where you're not putting that thing in your mouth anymore and choking to death and your eyes start to tear, and everyone knows what I'm talking about when you're taking x-rays and you have to bite down on a thing. That's a thing of the past. Now, yeah, granted, depending on where your financial level is at, you know, you need to pick and choose where you're going to do what stuff and eventually create a plan where you can get that machine, you know, get the latest, you know, electro massaging chair or whatever it is, and make sure the entryway is inviting, awesome if you're going to have coffee, whatever it is, you know, because here's another thing. Now when I go to a waiting room, wherever it is, if I just see magazines, I'm like, they're behind everyone else. Because now you need a TV. You know, you could even put up a row of iPads with games to keep kids, you know, happy. There's so many different things you could do. Obviously, we don't have enough time to cover all of that. But that will set yourself apart where it's a comfortable environment. Like, who likes waiting? So at least allow me to occupy my time in some either cool or productive manner that someone else maybe doesn't offer. All right, before I go to what degree, well, which kind of I segued there anyway, but anything else there, Alex? Or
Oh, sounds good. What about you, Tom?
Now let's move forward into degree.
Cool. So basically, to what degree are you willing to go to grow your practice? Because, you know, we all get caught in the comfort zone. And I spoke at Estee Lauder, very, very honored to speak at Estee Lauder a couple of weeks ago. And I said this one thing, because everyone has goals. And, you know, it comes down to one of two things. Either you don't know what to do to achieve your goals, or you know what to do and you're simply not doing it. And that's why you won't achieve goals. So the thing that came up is, what are you willing to sacrifice in order to have the practice you desire? Do you even have a dollar amount in your head about what you want to earn, what it takes to run it? If you're, you know, new and starting out, you're going to be in debt, obviously, but you know what? It's amazing, amazing industry where you can create wealth. That may have been one of the things that got you into it, but hopefully service will be one of the things that you will focus on. But the whole real thing is, to what degree are you willing to go? Have you created a game plan to where maybe you can add something down the road, increase your staff, get a bigger location 3 years from now? Great dentist I was able to meet and talk about a few things with the other day moved into an amazing, amazing building. Partner with another dentist. Both have a great booming practice. It's gorgeous when you walk in. He does have TVs in every one, separate channels in every room, all that fun stuff, if you're not up on the latest technology. He has a whole room of servers and equipment, and then storage in the basement. Like, it's insane. It's an insane practice to walk into. If that's what you aspire to, you need to have a plan, and then you need to act on that plan in a steady manner with some timelines to when you want to create these things. And, you know, first things first, if your office is kind of drab and dated, you know, you might want to look at your patients or clients. Are they kind of, you know, not the youngest group, the youngest set? Because you probably want to start attracting a younger clientele and, you know, get their kids in, stuff like that. But that's basically the real concise version of to what degree is, are you willing to go? And I don't mean sacrificing your family, although there are long hours involved, there are weekends. So balance is important, but really, what is your whole game plan? Then maybe you can hold off on getting, you know, the latest sports car and build your practice to where you can get 3 of them, you know, because there's always a reward after a sacrifice. So you want to get into the questions that we have?
Yeah, let's get it. Absolutely, let's get into the questions. So we asked some questions that were submitted to us, also through some of the social media outlets. So the first one here, that's also in the worksheet, is Rob, how do you think that you feel about your own dental experience and what's happened to you recently and throughout your life? How does that shape your outlook?
Well, it's probably kind of obvious in that I became very leery of dentists in general, untrusting, because we don't want to put. I don't want to put my life in the hands of someone I don't trust. So I had a couple of dentists that were pretty terrible in a row. But even going back to when I was a teenager, every cavity became a root canal. So when later down the road a dentist would do X-rays, say, why do you have like 10 teeth that were root canals? I'm like, well, that's because every time I had a cavity, it didn't even get a filling ever. It was literally, you need a root canal. Now, statistically, odds-wise, it probably wasn't accurate. I probably got a little ripped off. So it made me very, very hesitant, and I still am. Even to this day, I will still feel that resistance to thinking, am I getting good work? And the interesting part is, I'm kind of a nerd. I love to read and I like knowledge. And if you search the etymology of the word client, it actually means someone who leans on another for protection. So your client is expecting you to protect their teeth, their assets, and dentists will know their health is related as well. So they, the non-expert, come to you, the expert, to get a service that they can't provide for themselves. That's a large responsibility and should be taken very seriously. The good thing is that partly, which I can relate to, is people going through a bad experience is good for the great dentist. When they find you, they'll love you, as long as you set yourself apart from the mediocre majority and put yourself into what I call the masterful minority. I read that in The Encore Effect by Mark Sanborn, great book. So that's where you want to be. So as I said, what are some ways you want to interact with your client? Because this is a relationship, and that's what I think is important. So they must like you, feel like you have things in common with them, which we all do. Everyone can relate at some level. In fact, just as a side tidbit, at my insurance agency, we did profiles on the sales reps so we could bonus them according to their likes. And it was very simple. It included their favorite restaurant or sports team. And in fact, I recall sending one of them a mini Denver Broncos helmet for their desk. That got the most unbelievable reception. Someone's like, this is like the best gift I could have gotten. It comes from someone who, in a I guess a field where people don't really care that much, especially about insurance agents very often don't get treated well by both consumers and by their people who are called their upline, their bosses. So that went a long way. And, it reminds me of a quote, and Alex and Tom probably know this one. It shows that you care. John Maxwell says people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's a great quote to build your on. Yeah. So that's
kind of to piggyback what you're talking about earlier about the client and what that means, and that is a great way of looking at it, looking at your patient more as a client, not a customer, and the meaning are totally different. The other thing which is really interesting now, there's a trend with dentistry, and I got to give a lot of credit to the Atlanta Dental Spa. I got to see how they work, and one of the things is, as well as Gary Cady, this idea of total mouth dentistry. And when you look at your client, you don't just look at, here's somebody I can make some quick money on doing a cavity or a root canal or a veneer. They go, this is a patient for life. This is somebody, I look at their whole mouth, because there's this concept called the oral systemic link. Now, dentists know this, and how what goes in your mouth can affect your whole body.
Well, it's funny you said that. I thought you were actually going to say something I read the other day, actually the last night or the night before, is chiropractors and dentists are now relating neck and back pain to your mouth. So it's so extensive, the overall health and responsibility.
Oh, absolutely. TMJ.
It sounds like
absolutely.
pressure, kind of, but, you totally got this, because this is the field you got into. And once you combine that service-oriented mentality, that's part of the reason why you need
neuromuscular.
Yeah, you need to keep abreast of information.
Neuromuscular dentistry, that's what it is.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, it's because everything, is related to your bones and your, circulatory system. Body's an incredible thing. So you guys and gals out there, dentistry is many great women in there, is it's a responsibility. And, you can't even let one thing derail you. Like if you have one bad client, you have to wipe the slate clean and greet the next patient, client with, love, man. That's what it's all about, because it is pretty important. Let me tell you, I probably had migraines that were related to tooth pain back in the day and stuff like that.
All you need is love. All you need is love. So, Rob, how about this one? What is a trend you feel dentists must capitalize on?
Well, this is simple, 2 words: social media. You
Really?
absolutely have to, because Facebook is huge, Twitter is huge.
And what do you know about social media with 70,000 followers?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't even know how that happened, to be honest. It just it was a word of mouth thing, man. I was blown away. 65,000 on my blog, 70 on Twitter. I was like, whoa, yeah. And I don't even think that's a lot compared to what's out there. But just the exposure alone, and how you can tweet your patients, say, come in for a free cleaning or whatever it is, man. Post up on Facebook, say, hey, how can we improve our practice? And, share this, like our page. It's just a whole humongous referral network. And that's actually I think the third or fourth question we're going to get into. So I'm going to save the rest of the answer. But, yeah, social media. If you don't have a Facebook page, do one. Make sure it represents you. If you can't do it, hire someone. Even a blog where you could keep people informed about the things we've been touching on with their, back pain, neck pain. Maybe it's related to your teeth. Maybe you're a little out of alignment.
Do you have any social media, quick tips that dentists can apply today to kind of get some more following on either Twitter or Facebook?
I would tell you my blog made everything explode. I was doing it a blog a week for a long time, and you could make your blog just, copying and pasting some articles as long as you're going to give credit to them, when keeping people abreast of things in dentistry. We have the latest way that you don't feel pain when you get your Novocaine. Whatever it is, we have promoted all over the place. I mean, start getting, if you don't have an email on your patient, sign-in sheet where you get their information, you got to get their email. Start building that up. Everything is trending towards online. I mean, luckily you can't treat teeth online, but you know what? You can't start posting videos of what people can do until they get to the dentist if they have a major toothache. If you have insight like that, people will flock to you.
Great stuff. The next question we have here is, what are 1 or 2 things that anyone can do with a little or no budget?
Well, that's funny. It goes to adding value. What else can you do to add value? What can you offer people? Like, let's say, even just when they come in, I'll tell you something very simple that I've noticed in a couple of places. Control your environment temperature-wise. I've been in places where it's too cold. I've been in places where it's too hot. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but if you have a client waiting 5 or 10 minutes, and we all know this can happen because sometimes you get an emergency, maybe you're doing surgery somewhere else, and a client could be waiting, they could be really uncomfortable, where they will notice that. And, what are they going to do? Bring a winter jacket or something like that. So there are some things that you could just be aware of that really don't cost you too much money. Again, what is...
Well, like the email thing you were saying before, that doesn't cost you that much. Just get those emails and send them out. You can use MailChimp, and it's absolutely free to use that, for your first few thousand emails that you capture.
Well, yeah, not only that, constant contact. You could do an email newsletter. Like I do a sales training newsletter once a month. I do a blog once a week. I'm actually just designing a whole bunch of sales videos once my teeth go back to where I feel I can speak normally. I'll be doing a series of training videos. All of that takes time, which is your most valuable resource, which leads me to a secondary point. That's also your client's most valuable resource. So one of the small things you could pay attention to is their wait time, meaning how long are you going to have to wait to come and see you? Because I've had dentists where I'm waiting 30 minutes, and now I've taken time out of my day midday, and now my entire day is running late because the dentist was. So granted, it's going to happen. It shouldn't happen more often than not. So also, what can you do for me while I'm waiting? Can you give me an internet connection? Do you have a laptop available where maybe I can go to work to think of it from that perspective? Or, hey, you know what? We offer a babysitting service so that if you have to come in here with your kid and you're waiting, we have a playroom. Whatever it is, on whatever level, there are really no limits. Yes, that playroom and the person will cost money, but in the whole respect of people waiting around and what provide for them, or how you're going to maybe make sure that it doesn't happen the next time. So you know what, next time I promise you it won't happen. And granted, you may not be able to keep that promise either. It could happen. It happens to the best of us. There are times where I've overrun on a phone call, and now I overcompensate for time between calls, so it doesn't happen as often as not. But it does happen, especially in your industry, because I know I've gone in as emergency, and I've apologized to people when I'm walking out going, I'm so sorry, but I was crippled, and they will understand. So there are instances where if you do provide value, people will understand and be loyal. Anyway, you just don't want it to be an ongoing habit. So that, for me, is something that I think is important to pay attention to. Right down to the cleanliness of the bathroom. That's important. Can get overlooked, but believe it or not, people pay attention, especially women.
How about one, quote, in a nutshell, tip to gain some more patients?
Well, that's very simple. Referrals. Your biggest resource is your existing client base. And I know we're kind of getting short on time, but you have to absolutely ask for referrals. The second thing you should do is get testimonials, preferably video testimonials. Have a flip camera ready as they're exiting. If you're a cosmetic dentist, it shows your work. You cannot go wrong when someone's on video going, look at the smile, I feel like $1 million. And then have it playing in your office or playing on your website, or put it as an intro to your whole, Facebook page or whatever it is, wherever you can put it. That's the best way to tap into your existing clients who love you. Is, say, hey, do you know anyone else? And it simply is asking. It's so funny. Sales is all about asking. You have to ask for the sale, ask for a referral, ask for the people you can network with. The best advice comes from the Bible. It's ask and it should be given to you. That's the best sales advice on the planet, which is interesting. So, yeah, you got to ask for referrals. That'll be the best way to grow your business, and that doesn't cost anything. And believe me, you shouldn't be shy about it, because your client will not say, no, I don't know anyone, and I'm not coming here anymore. That won't happen. So you won't lose an existing client, and if they are a satisfied customer, it's a great thank you for them to send someone else, because that means they trust you, and that's a client for life. So that's probably the best way to do it.
Hey, Rob, Tom here. That brings up an interesting point. It seems, at least from my experience, the dental profession is a real personality-driven industry, in that the superstars have a something special that sets them apart. But I know a lot of doctors that are kind of shy, and they're maybe even introverts. Do you have any tips on how someone might kind of break out of their shell when they're working with clients to, put on that rock star performance?
Hire an extroverted receptionist or dental assistant. Because it's going to be very difficult to reshape your personality. If that's how you are, it's probably an asset, because you're probably calm, cool, and collected, and Mr. Steady or Mrs. Steady, right? But yeah, I would say if you think it's going to be an important part of your practice, have the person that greets people the minute they walk in be the rock star. Because it takes all different types of people. Because you know what? Not everyone might not like that personality and gravitate towards the more calming personality of maybe a more subdued type in the dentist itself. So that shouldn't be something that you feel deters you. You can look at it as an asset, in that maybe people will like that calming nature while they're in a chair, because like I said, there can be anxiety. So that can be a good thing. But if you do want the aspect, get some bubbly personality that comes in the minute they walk in. They're like, I wouldn't make them like, Richard Simmons for people in the age range that know what it is, but, you want them more like Rachel Ray maybe, something like that. So that's what I would do in that case.
So what about for that introverted doctor who may have trouble building sort of a rapport with their clients? Any suggestions on that?
Yeah. If they have a problem building rapport with everyone they encounter, including family and friends, they're always going to have that problem. If they don't have a problem talking to their neighbor, their mechanic, their grocer, then they should not have a problem talking to clients. It's probably just a matter of their perspective. Meaning, like I said earlier, we all have commonalities. Did you watch Game of Thrones? What sports team? That's a really huge for customer loyalty because you do want people to like you, like you said. And I think I might have mentioned that earlier on. But, yeah, where can we all have common ground? Like, obviously, I could talk about music, and that comes up often, but there are other things that I'm interested in. And that's what you want it to be like. You don't want to be like, hey, how are your teeth doing? You want it to be like, hey, how are the kids? And the more you can interact and, show people you care and ask questions, best way to get to know people. One of the things I wrote in that, the chapter I wrote in the Brian Tracy book was, you always hear people say, man, it was great talking to you. But you never hear anyone say it was great listening to you. So people want to be heard. And all you have to do is ask questions and you can get to know anyone. Clients will tell you everything they need to know. Everything you need to know to help them.
All right. So our last
Thanks
question here is for segment 2. What is the best advice you can give someone to achieve success in this case, the dental industry?
That's funny because it reminds me of what someone asked me and said, in 60 seconds, what would be like critical advice you can give to someone to succeed? And it's the same answer. Always keep learning and then keep applying what you learn. Because like the stuff that we covered, like even over the last week or so, all of a sudden I found that connection between chiropractic and dentistry and the back. And there are always things that you can keep you getting better. Because if you're not getting better, you're either remaining the same or becoming stagnant and decaying, so to speak. So that would be my best advice, especially since I know we're a little limited for time. That would be it. Just keep learning, keep applying, try and fail, because you might hit something amazing. Look at Post-it notes. If anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, go look at how Post-it notes were invented by accident. But do we have any other questions?
That's definitely true. Well, I have one more for you at the end, but let me, since we're running near the time, I want to give some instructions to everybody here. The interview here today, we are going to have that available by the end of the week on allstardentalacademy.com. I will also make the MP3 available for a limited time in the free membership area. I'll tell you a little bit about that. Rob has additional materials, including he has a program called the Service Station, which you can read in the experts section of the All Star Dental Academy. You can go sign up for free membership, totally free, no obligation, nothing, and you can access Rob and other experts that are coming on the program, their information. I'll also have Rob's MP3 downloads. If you want to get that and listen to in your car, you can. Also, another thing is I've gotten a lot of interest about Rob and this whole rockstar dentistry approach, and Rob has told me that he will be happy to come back, and we might even be having a 3-part series webinar to cover, or at least a program that will cover the 3 sections: the pre-sale to rockstar dentistry, the sale to the rockstar dentistry, and the post-sale to rockstar dentistry. If we're able to get Rob back, but a lot of people were very excited about rockstar dentistry. Wow, that's so very cool. So. And next week, we're going to have Bill from Page One Solutions, a good friend of mine, and he's going to be talking and giving an overview of intake training on how to really maximize your phone call, some great tips to better train your staff with answering the phone call. If you want to learn more about Rob, we have some information on our website, but you can also go to rockstarSalesTraining.com. And the last question that I have for you is if people like what they heard and they want to talk with you or get some more advice or see you can help them, what do you do with dentists, and I guess what would the best way for them to reach you or ask you questions?
Well, it's actually similar to what I normally do. It's just I'm a sales consultant, so in this case I would be a service consultant, and we can design some kind of either ongoing or maybe just to get you launched type of package that I probably already have that we could discuss. It always depends on what your needs are. I could never tell you something until I know just like what I'm telling you guys, you need to know how to assess needs in order to move forward and make sure I'm taking care of you properly. Best to reach me is my toll-free number, 855-832-ROCK, which I love, which is 7625, but it's 855-832-7625. Or if you just search Rob Liano on Google, Rob Liano blog on Google, I'm probably all over the first page still. I don't check it as often as I should, I guess, but it's very easy. Rob Liano is like piano with an L, Liano. And that's it. That's how you get me. But, yeah, we're going to try and put together because there's some stuff that I didn't even tap into. I was looking at some of my notes just now, and we're not even close. So hopefully I could bring more insight in the future, and, we can rock it out.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Rob. And I trust that all of you enjoyed this interview and it served you. So now go out there and be an all-star.